So last weekend, I made the pilgrimage, about a 7-hour drive out to the Salem Horror Fest Film Festival for the very first time. In fact, it was my very first time in Salem, Massachusetts ever. I've always wanted to go, and this was a good little tick off the bucket list thing there. So having experienced it, and as much fun as I did have, it is worth asking the question, is Salem Horror Fest worth going to in the future? In this video, I intend to dig deep as I go through the adventures that I had in Salem at the Salem Horror Fest. And then at the end of the video, I am going to take a little bit more of a somber tone as I discuss the ride home and how it actually led me in an ambulance on my way to the emergency room. So again, this was my first time attending Salem Horror Fest, and what a grand time I did have. This was an event that was split up over 2 weekends, and I went in weekend 2, so the last weekend of the event. Each weekend has a pass that was $175 to attend everything. There were certain events that you could get an individual pass for, but I just went ahead and got the whole schmeal. So this was an event that was actually spattered all across Salem, or at the very least all across the Salem Mall area at different locations that you would just look at the schedule, decide what movie you wanted to see, what event you wanted to attend, and then go to that location. And unfortunately, one aspect of this that it's just the reality of a lot of more popular film festivals is you can't do everything. No matter how much the schedule works in your favor, there's just going to be events that are overlapping, 2 different things taking place at 2 different venues at the same time, and you're just going to have to make some difficult decisions. And as much as I wanted to see all the movies that were on the lineup, it just wasn't physically possible unless I found some way to replicate myself through, I don't know, asexual cellular division. But I haven't achieved that yet. I'm still meditating and working on it, but maybe 2025. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you really like the cut of my gibberish, maybe check the link down below at the Patreon. Check out the offerings that we have there. The lowest tier starts at only $1 a month. Despite all the events that were surrounding this was first and foremost a film festival. So let's go into the films that I did watch. I saw Meltdown, A Nuclear Family's Ascension into Madness, directed by Colton Van Til. I Will Never Leave You Alone, directed by D.W. Midoff. The Grudge had a showing, the 2004 Grudge. The Judgment, which was a film set in Egypt, directed by Marwan Mokbel. And Ghost Game, directed by Jill Gavarjazian. I will be putting out reviews for those films in the next couple of days over on my primary cinematic channel, Rotted Entertainment. What I will go ahead and state right off the bat here is, with a film festival, you kind of get a little bit of a mixed bag oftentimes. A lot of the movies are from independent artists or studios that are shopping them around seeking distribution, or maybe have some light distribution and seeking more broad distribution. And with that, you get a real mixed bag of quality. And I gotta say, with Salem Horror Fest in this particular time around, weekend 2 of 2024, of the 4 submissions that were put out there that I managed to watch, I liked all of them. I didn't think there was any that really kind of blew my socks off, but I found them all to be of actually a pretty significant quality. There are some film festivals out there that will just take any old submission and are just happy to fill a calendar. And I'm not really privy to the behind the scenes of the Salem Film Festival, but what I will say is whoever was in charge of accepting, cultivating, and scheduling the films did a remarkable job this time around. Very, very pleased with the quality overall. Outside of the films, there was a lot more of a festival part of the festival, which was notably the welcome reception that took place at Hallowed Grounds in the Salem Mall. After the showing of the 2004 version of The Grudge, there was a live podcast put on by Joe and Trace of Horror Queers, which if you've never heard of their podcast, I do strongly recommend checking it out. It's thoughtful, it's funny. Horror Queers is fantastic. Saturday and Sunday both had blocks of short film showings that were fantastic. It was a grand time. Great audience reaction to a lot of them. And then the last thing that I got to attend was the 80s themed prom dance party, which was a raucous riot of a good time. Outside of the festival, again, this was my first time visiting Salem, Massachusetts ever. And I was warned by several of my friends that this is a place that is very kitschy. It's very touristy, and you should know that going in. And it's not that I disagree with them, but I think that I was bracing myself for something a little bit different, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I actually found at Salem. If you've never visited before, it's a remarkable place, and I do recommend it. I had a great time browsing around, having a little retail therapy. The thing is, when I was braced for touristy and kitschy, I was kind of expecting a lot more of a corporate vibe to it, that you would find a Bubba Gump Shrimp Company and a Spencer's on every corner. But no, it was actually quite a bit different than that. Yes, it was kitschy. Yes, it was touristy, and it was all kind of over the top, elaborate, themed towards witches and ghouls and goblins and monsters. But that's part of the joy of it. That's part of what I love about it. But it also had a very small, intimate, independently owned kind of feel to it. There wasn't a McDonald's in every corner. All the restaurants and the bars and shops and everything that I saw there, the museums and the tours, they all seemed to be like non-chain franchised deals. So yes, very touristy. Yes, very kitschy. But I mean, look at my shirt. I love kitsch. There is one store in particular that I do kind of want to just make a special mention of is Die With Your Boots On. If you love any kind of goth fashion or accessories or anything along those lines, it is absolutely a place to check out. I know they have a website that has some of their products in it. Die With Your Boots On was a great place. It's actually where I got this shirt, and I think it may be the most colorful thing that store had. So, coming around full circle, we get back to the question, is Salem Horror Fest worth attending? It depends on what you want out of it. If you just want to see the movies that are being presented at the festival, maybe it might be worth it. I mean, there are other film festivals. If you have one that's closer to you, you might get a little bit more out of a different festival that has a more regimented schedule, that you're not having to make more difficult decisions between films or between films and events. But again, the cultivation and the quality that was presented here does really kind of stand out. So maybe it would be worth attending. Maybe it might not be worth getting the full $175 festival pass and instead just getting individual screening tickets. However, if you are interested in the films as well as the community, watching movies, being social, going to dinners, going to dances, and having a raucous riot of a good time, it is 100% absolutely worth it. I don't think I can really put it any better than this. Now that I have attended it for the first time, I hope and I will try to be making it every year from here on out. If that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. As much of a good time as I had, I was eager to get home. And that's where things kind of went south. So this is where the story kind of takes a little bit more of a somber tone. So it was a 7-hour trip up, a 7-hour trip back. The trip back started out pretty not great. It was raining. I was going through Boston traffic. It was start-stop for a long while. It was more looking like it was going to be a 9-hour trip back. And just overall, not nearly as fun as the trip up. The trip up was great. It was like roads were clear. I had audiobooks going. It was a great time. Not so much on the trip back. And then a couple hours in, I was noticing that my stomach was starting to get a bit sour. It was just a bit odd. And I had to pull over frequently to use the restroom, which wasn't great for my timeline. And it just was kind of getting worse. When I got about 4 hours into the trip, I had to pull over and find my way to a gas station and make the use of the facilities to be sick, but I wasn't able to. And I was getting kind of concerned at that point. And I mean, I didn't want to be on the road and need to be sick. But at the same time, I was frustrated because I was there. I was at a location where like it was appropriate. It was like safe. And I wasn't able to. So I was at a bit of a catch-22, and while I'm kind of standing around waiting for something to happen, I was noticing a few other symptoms. My left hand was starting to get tingly. I was dizzy. I was disoriented, and I was getting short of breath. Now, when you are the size that I am, or certainly the size that I used to be, you tend to know some of the symptoms of various medical calamities and emergencies. You kind of become a little bit hyper aware of them. And any individual symptom on their own is kind of, well, hope that's nothing. But when you have a bunch of them put together like that, it does raise some alarm bells. So I was kind of fearing the worst. The fact is that the Hollywood heart attack, I mean, it happens, but symptomatically, a lot of times it can just be presented as extreme heartburn, nausea, sore neck and shoulders, things like that. There's other symptoms involved. So the fact that I was nauseous to the point of like it was just getting escalated and worse. And with being the short of breath, being dizzy, with my left hand tingly and so forth, it finally just like, okay, I can't be on the road and this is getting worse. So it's not passing. And it kind of not like, okay, I made the decision. This trip back home is going to have to be delayed and I need to find my way to an emergency room. Thing is, I was on the road. I didn't know where I was. I was following my GPS. It's one of the pitfalls of not being a triptych person anymore and just following where my phone takes me. So I barely knew what town I was in. So as far as calling an ambulance, I didn't even know where to tell them to go. I'm at a gas station. I'm at a Sunoco gas station somewhere. So I went in and talked to the clerk and I just said, I think I'm having a medical emergency. I need you to call an ambulance for me. And he was really cool about it. Gave me a milk crate to sit on outside while I was getting the fresh air. Ambulance came and, well, I should say before the ambulance came, I called my wife to let her know what was going on. And that was a really tough call. That was a tough call to make the call. I was so torn on that one. If I didn't call, whether or not to make that call, because I knew that if I did that, I am hundreds of miles away and there's nothing that she can do but worry. I have the only car of the household. She, it was kind of an accepted thing. Hey, I'm going to go to this film festival. You're going to have to be kind of trapped in the house for a while. So there's no way that she can get out to me. So all I'm going to do is worry her. Logistically, there's nothing she can do. But at the same time, assuming that everything is okay, I'm still delaying my trip. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to contact her again. So if I simply just don't show up at the doorstep in another couple hours, that's going to worry her too, immensely. And then the thought of what if I never get to make that call? That was a tough one. And I knew I couldn't live with myself if I had the opportunity to notify her and didn't take it and was never able to, that I couldn't, I could not let that be a possibility. So yeah, I called her and yeah, she worried and I scared her half to death. Man, that was a tough phone call. How do you prioritize what you need to say in a phone call like that, knowing that there is the possibility that may be the last time you ever speak to them? I let her know what was going on, generally where I was, tried to get the logistics out of the way, and just told her what I needed to tell her. I'll keep that private, but yeah, I was like, that was a tough phone call. But the ambulance came and took me to about half an hour away. There was a hospital that was closer, but there was one that, if I was actually having a heart attack, the hospital that was half an hour away would actually be more suited to treat me. So, long story short, I'm fine. What wound up happening was I got an EKG that came back okay. Then they were suspecting more my gallbladder than my heart. And they gave me some medicine for the nausea. I managed to get some rest. As weird as that sounds, that was another symptom, was I just got hammered with fatigue, which would be another reason to not be on the road. But that fatigue was something that was really tough to counter. And nobody told me, I was kind of expecting, is no, stay awake. But everyone was like, yeah, take a nap. So they started suspecting my gallbladder, and I got a CAT scan for that. And that came back fine too. While I spent about I think, a grand total of about 8 hours or so in the hospital. And over that time, I guess the more concerning symptoms of mine dissipated. The nausea dissipated, the dizziness dissipated, the fatigue lessened, which may have been the result of the nap that I kind of like periodically took in between the time that somebody came in and woke me up to do another test or have me, get some more pills. But they ran the gamut of blood work, and they basically came up with the best suspicion that they had was that I caught a bug. That something just hit me real hard, real fast, and that I caught a bug of some sort. Didn't feel like food poisoning, but and it turns out I think they were right. I have no reason to doubt them to begin with, but I got an Uber back to where I left the car at the gas station, drove the rest of the way home. I drove slowly, and by that I mean I kept up with the speed limit, but I drove methodically. There was, I think, over the course of the next what would ordinarily be a 3-4 hour drive, I made about 4 or 5 stops to go to the restroom because that aspect of it hadn't stopped, and take a nap. It took me a long while to get back home, but I kind of, just step by step, like I'm too tired to drive. The fatigue is too much. Take a nap. And finally I made my way home. And this video would have been made earlier, except I have been spending the last several days recovering from whatever this was. I'm still not entirely sure, but there's no doubt in my mind that I was sick, and I'm feeling much better now. Still, like waking up in the morning, there's still a bit of like upper rest, like sinus stuff that I'm clearing out. So maybe it was like a sinus infection or something that presented without the upper respiratory part until later. So it was just affecting my equilibrium. I don't know. I still don't know, but ticker's fine, gallbladder's fine, blood work's fine, everything's fine, which was a big relief. I mean, at the very least, I felt like I could be safe on the road to drive back home, while giving in to the fatigue and being safe that way. But that I wasn't in danger of being an unconscious entity wheeling around a vehicle on the freeway. So, since then, just been kind of dealing with the fallout of everything. Not that there was like a huge amount of fallout, but it was scary. And it's the kind of scary that it takes a while to shake off. I've been working on my health, and there's some aspects of it that kind of got stalled out. Some aspects I'm still working on. I haven't given up by any means, but it has been a little bit of a shot in the arm. The aspects that have stalled out to like, let's get back at it. We're not done yet, buddy. Friends were asking how I was. And I said, honestly, I feel like hell. I feel sick, but I'm so grateful to just be sick. And now I'm grateful to be well, and I am just kind of having a different, unique outlook on things, and just grateful to be here. Grateful to be talking to you. Grateful to be talking about the Salem Film Festival. And grateful that I have every intention and, by all accounts, every opportunity to attend in 2025. So there we have it. That's my odd detoured travel vlog of Salem from last weekend. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.